Mayor, we're live on YouTube.
Okay. Is that good? Or nothing if we're not timely. 7. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's July 27th, 2023. The time is 7 p.m. If you don't mind, please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Today, the invocation will be given by my father, Dale White.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this great country, and we pray for all of our leaders. We pray for this council tonight that you will give them insight and understanding in the matters they are about to contemplate. And we ask that you will give them wisdom in the decisions they are about to make. And this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Follow me with the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I want to thank everybody for coming out today. I have a few more people coming in. There's a seat open. Please make it available for some of the people standing in the back. But at this point, we're going to open up our citizens to be heard. We have 13 people signed up. Anybody signed up online? Okay. We ask that when you are called up, please come up, give your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to share whatever you want. We cannot discuss any questions that you have. Just to listen and speak your mind. You have 3 minutes. There will be a timer. We will start with, sorry, I can't make out the last name, but Carl Jr. Carl, thank you.
Carl Wonky Jr., 18591 Bandera Road. Well, I'm here today to show my support for the Trailhead Helotes project. I'm currently working with this group, M&O Partners, on another project in New Braunfels. I really wanted to speak on a couple of things. One, the character of these guys. We've been working with them now for about a year, and they've been not only great to work with for us, but I've also seen what they've done for the city. Where we're building over there, there's a lot of residents immediately surrounding the property. And these guys have gone out of their way to appease them, to meet with them, go into their own homes and discuss the plans, show them what's happening. One event in particular, a resident was having a funeral, so he's doing a gathering at his home. And, construction was still ongoing. You always got to keep moving, but these guys asked us to shut down the site for the whole day. Just out of respect, so they'd be quiet for him and his family. So those guys in general, I think they're great. They're going to listen. They're going to respect everybody's opinion here, really take it to heart and try to appease it as best they can. And then just speaking as somebody who's grown up in Helotes, going to O'Connor, I can say that it'd be really nice if I had the option to get an apartment over here, to be able to live out here and afford it. When I graduated UTSA, I went looking, and I sure as hell couldn't afford, 5 acres. I couldn't afford anywhere to live at the time. So this would have been a nice option to have. And with the retail space that they got and they're proposing, since I work in Helotes now, it would be nice to grab a drink somewhere other than Pete's, have more options than El Chaparral. So I'm here to show my support. And I think these are a good group of guys, and just know that if you have any difference of opinion on what they're doing, they're going to listen and try to make it work for you guys. That's it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Sabrina McGowan.
Good evening. My name is Sabrina McGowan, and I live at 10902 Barracks Trail in Helotes Park Estates. I am very opposed to the zoning change you are being asked to consider because it enriches the developer and adds nothing of value to our community. M&O Partners will tell you that pickleball courts and dog parks are retail and will bring our community together. But as we all know, retail is where goods and services are sold, and nothing is being sold on a pickleball court. They will tell you that food trucks are also retail, but the truth is food trucks will be brought in occasionally by a property manager for the people who live in the apartment complex. We have an area that brings our community together, and it's called Old Town Helotes, the place where our families, friends, neighbors, and visitors come to enjoy our small businesses and shops. The history, charm, and beauty of Helotes is what makes us so special. There is nothing charming or special about a massive apartment complex development on Bandera Road. Unlike these developers, I understand and respect the values of Helotes, and I care about our community, its residents, and development that makes sense. I'm not alone. From hosting neighborhood meetings at our home to starting a petition against this proposal, which has generated more than 200 signatures from Helotes residents, we will not accept an apartment development. The developers don't understand or respect our community. They came in with the same cookie cutter approach they used in San Antonio where they failed, and they're trying to redefine what constitutes retail. They've gone further in terms of misrepresentation. On Monday, the owner of the property reached out to me and came to my home. I learned very quickly that she is passionate about Helotes, the environment, particularly tree preservation. I also learned that M&O Partners produced a proposal for her that is significantly different from the one that you received. So you have copies of two proposals from the developer. The preserve at Old Town Helotes, which was presented to Mifey Moore in order to get her to agree to their offer. The second proposal, Trailhead at Helotes, is what was submitted to you and our Planning and Zoning Commission. The developer is not interested in building community or anything that would make sense in Helotes. The apartments would be an end to our small town charm. M&O Partners lied to Mifey Moore, and they're lying to you, and they're lying to this community. Please deny their PUD request. You have a legal right to reject it and a responsibility to preserve our small town charm, uphold our zoning ordinances, and protect us from dishonest developers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Carl, I have you up again, but, different senior.
Different, Carl.
All right.
Actually lived here for a while.
All right.
Name's Carl Wenke. Live at 13031 Cepeda in Helotes Springs. The Helotes community has changed and been changing for many years. 50 years ago, I attended Helotes Elementary, 5th and 6th grade. Back then, it was a single room, single building, wood clad with 4 rooms divided by rolling chalkboards. Miss Nichols was my teacher. Now there's a full modern campus on that property. At the time, my home was where the Silverado Theaters is, Santikos. We owned property there and had property all the way back to now the Helotes Carnival Grounds. It was called the Pinfold Ranch. I've seen change in Helotes from the Handy Andy that we used to shop at. No longer there, is now the dollar store. All these have been benefited to the Helotes community. Later in my life, I attended John Marshall High School, met my wife. The only way we could stay in the community was live in the first apartments that were out here were called Camino Real off of Braun Road. We lived there about 18 years ago. We moved our family out to the Helotes community, built our house, permanent resident. 8 years ago, I moved my business out to Helotes on Highway Bandera Road. So been here for a while. We're at the Galvin Still property. Developments like this are needed for the growth and development and improvement in the community. One, it helps with providing housing for employers to get their employees a place to live that's more convenient and not so far away for them to drive. All the retail businesses that we all look and go to eat our dinner, lunches, and breakfast, they also need those individuals. Most housing in this area is about $2,000 a month for rent when you can find it. And that's for a 1980s version home, maybe not in the best condition. Development is vital to the health and improvement of the city and the infrastructure, maintenance and improvement costs. These are partially covered through the impact fees and later tax revenue that y'all gain from these developments. Most people are opposed to change. I get it. Most people dislike the tree issue. They're replaced with inches. I believe most people don't understand that. Literally 17 miles down the road, Highway 46, we have oak wilt coming this way. It's been coming this way for years. About another 10 years, it'll be here. When they replace an oak tree, they replace it with a hybrid oak. Hybrid oak is resistant to oak wilt. So if we replace them now, we can maybe preserve some of our trees for later when this oak wilt does get here. I care about my community. As a member of the community, we support organizations like the Helotes 4-H, the ASTA FFA, the Miss Helotes pageant. I've been doing it for 20 years. I help support the District 7 fire station, which also serves the Helotes area. I helped Kevin Clarkson, fire chief, build that station actually. We did it for our community and got it in there, and it's been very beneficial. It was very greatly opposed and has been greatly received since then. So I am in support of the project. I've been here for obviously 50 plus years. I love Helotes. People say it's going to change. Helotes Carnival is now a giant commercial production. It used to be in Helotes downtown streets from end to end, closed off, and we danced in the streets, people.
That's your
So-
3 minutes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your comments. Next up, we have Patrick McGowan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council Member. My name is Patrick McGowan. I'm a resident at 10902 Barracks Trail in Helotes Park Estates, and I'm here to speak in strong opposition to the trailhead of Helotes zoning variance. This is a massive 366 unit apartment complex. 288 of those units are one-bedroom apartments. And this is located between Helotes Park Estates and Old Town. The M&O partners have been dishonest since the beginning. They've submitted a proposal to the owner to get them to force them to, or to get them to sell. Now they're here trying to fool us to think that park-like retail is retail, and it's not. They only want the PUD zoning variance. They want to maximize their profits, and they want to leave us with the long-term problems of an apartment complex that ages. A quarter of a mile of apartment complex, 22 units per acre across from Old Town is ridiculous. There's under no circumstances would this proposal be accepted by the people of Helotes. This doesn't save the community. It only hurts Helotes. The city of Helotes and the taxpayers spent millions of dollars through the Economic Development Corporation to install water and sewer lines out to that area for commercial development, not apartments. This is counterproductive to the city investment and the strategy over the last 10 to 20 years. In addition, this proposal violates so many of our building principle codes. In reference to the traffic during the commission meeting at 2 weeks ago, David Warren misled the commission in thinking and conveying that the traffic is minimal. I'm a traffic engineer for over 35 years. I'm on several national and international boards. I've testified over 20 times for TxDOT against developers. And I'm here to tell you that David Warren doesn't know anything about traffic impact studies. At the commission, he referred to a single trip generation table and inferred results. One of the things that you need to be aware of is that the traffic congestion coming out of apartments, there's peak volumes. You have them in the morning, you have them in the evening, the same time Bandera Road has congestion. You also have all the southbound trips in the morning are going to go through the scenic loop intersection, which has to get redone if this happens. You have traffic accidents in the ingress and egress of that development because it's a high-speed facility. And more importantly, you're going to have pedestrian accidents crossing across Bandera Road into Old Town. And 1 out of 5 traffic deaths is a pedestrian death. And so what will happen is likely TxDOT will be forced to put a pedestrian barrier across in the median of Bandera Road. This does not serve the community. It is as well as a commercial development. I'm not aware of a single resident in Helotes who's begging for a massive apartment complex across the street from Old Town. M&O wants us to look the other way. They want us to ignore our rules so they can make higher profits and leave us with the long-term problems of an apartment complex. Finally, you have the legal right to deny this.
Mr.
We
Brown.
expect you to, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Up next is Sherry Swigmo.
I have to follow that. All right, my name is Sherry Schwegman. I live
sorry.
on 10221 Brafter. I'm a longtime resident of Helotes. I went to Helotes Elementary, Stevenson Middle School, John Marshall. We probably cross paths.
And I'm strongly against any changes to the B3 commercial zoning that would allow a developer to build, I'm almost gonna cry, 366 apartment units in downtown Helotes. My concerns are many, as Helotes has 200 townhomes built on Scenic Loop and Bandera. Do we need another rental area? I'm worried about the dense population in such a small area, crime and overcrowding and traffic. The story will be 3 stories, which is not allowed in Helotes, but I guess it will be allowed in this point. Sorry. This will not, this mega complex will likely change throughout the years. The ownership will, but this scar will remain in Helotes. Just this complex will generate revenue for Helotes for the short time, but not for the long term. And it will be a scar. We can do better. And I put signs in my yard that would support you. And I hope that you maintain the integrity that you promised.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mike Krizak.
Mr. Patrick said mostly everything I wanted to say. And I basically went through this the night before last, excuse me, in Leon Valley, because I own a house there too. And what the developer posed on the land behind my house there to put apartments, it was turned down by the city of Leon Valley. So he came back last week, well, earlier this week when I went there to the meeting, and he wanted to put duplexes there. And I explained to him, he's going to want to put the duplexes, and that's just going to be a buffer zone for apartments later on. And that's just the way the developers have been working lately, to put apartments all over this town. And if you noticed all those trees they knocked down, those houses aren't going to be sold. They're going to be rented down from the post office. And those apartments on Kyle Seal and those houses, they're all rent houses too.
Thank you, sir.
I lived in the house 46 years.
I still love your bus.
The guy with the bus.
The guy with the bus, the short bus. You know, you wrote it.
Yes, I did. Still writing it.
All right. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Mr. Rick Acuna.
Hello, my name is Rick Acuna. I reside at 10826 Bar X Trail. I'm here today to inform you that I am opposed against the planned unit development zoning designation request from M&O Partners because it places additional strain in our community and on our first responder resources. The huge apartment complex represents another 366 households that rely on our city's fire, EMS, and our police department for help. So that's 22 times higher than the adjacent neighborhoods where our homes are on an average of about an acre. So our home is in Helotes Park Estates. It's right above the proposed apartment development. We enjoy living in a very safe neighborhood, and we feel that the change the apartments will bring in, they're going to bring in crime, such as car thefts, break-ins, vandalisms, trespassing. Our police officers will be called to respond to less serious but bothersome noise complaints from the residents because M&O Partners will be gone and the apartment complex manager won't be available at midnight or 2 a.m. Our first responders will also be responsible for dealing with pedestrian accidents, as one of the other residents had indicated, that will likely increase with the apartment residents who think they can safely walk across to Old Town Helotes to go to eat some food. So From on a personal note, I've experienced probably all of this, the crime, the vandalism, the trespassing, because I previously lived in apartments and, car was stolen. There were some, people who vandalized our neighbor's car. And then most recently, when we just moved to Helotes 2 years ago. And the main reason we moved was because we wanted a quiet community, a place where, it was away from these apartments, because we were seeing people trespassing on our property. We were seeing people hanging out in our cul-de-sac. So that really wasn't something we wanted to experience for our kids and our grandkids. So in closing, City Council, Mayor, please protect the safety and property of our residents and support our first responders by denying the PUD zoning request from Eminent Partners. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Roberts.
Well, good evening. First, it's an honor to be here and be able to talk with all of you today and to speak for some of the citizens of the city. My name is Charles Roberts and my wife Laura Roberts. We're both residents at 10906 Bar X Trail up in Helotes Park Estates. We own the property next door as well at 10910 Bar X Trail, both of which are right at the building site, the bottom of our properties. So no doubt, as citizens that are contiguous to the property, we're concerned about the population density and all of the new neighbors that would be available. But tonight, I'm not going to speak about that so much. You've heard from others. Like some that spoke tonight, I drove through the city as a child as well. I was with my family. We would travel out here for vacations all the time from San Antonio, as did my wife's family. And I sought to live here too. As soon as I could get a chance, I wanted to be out here living in any house I could get. And like most of us in the audience, it wasn't going to be easy to do because this is a beautiful place to live and you have to work very hard and prepare yourself for years to be out here sometimes. And so we did. We put our heads down and we worked for 20 years and we bought properties and we've been good citizens. I volunteered for the city for over 15 years now on the Board of Adjustments and other areas, and volunteered even further by bringing backhoes and helping plant all the trees that are in the Frisbee Park over there. My wife and I dug those holes to put those trees in. So we love the place. Now I'm going to just go to the details though. Being on the Board of Adjustments for so many years, when something comes to the board, it's brought to us usually residential, sometimes commercial, but it comes to us because there's a lack of clarity or there's a variation against the building ordinances. And so they're asking for some accommodation. There's a lot of rules there on the board, and the board is very careful and very diligent in reviewing those requests for variances. And in no case is the request granted for economic reasons, only in reasons where the street shape is so crazy you can't measure the setback and you have to redefine what that might mean in the best interest of the community. I reviewed the master plan completely over the last several weeks. It speaks to the spirit of what we want in Helotes in the future. It does talk about nodal communities, and I think we reinterpret that as a PUD now, and we even have it drawn into some of the city literature. However, the master plan is the spirit, and going to the ordinances, this mixed zoning has no definition in it currently. We are not ready. And so if mixed use means you can come in and say, well, the ordinances for one don't match the other, so we need some new building height requirements. What stops you from building 50 stories high? What stops you from building 10,000 people per acre? There's no rule in there. There's no limits for the council to act on. There's nothing for the Planning and Zoning Commission to work from. So before we start entertaining these type of requests that change our zoning completely in one day, one decision, we should go back to the drawing board. I ask you to review the master plan first. I recognize it has to be reviewed every 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And also thank you for your service to the board.
Thank you.
Richard Hawk. Good to see you again, sir.
Richard Hawk, 10218 Rafter S Trail. I don't have much to add to what folks have said. The gentleman over here is correct. The city is changing. but I think it's changing, it should change a little slower. I would have thought this place would have been packed tonight, but I realized that if it's not in your backyard, you don't really care. So the people in the subdivisions on the other side of town, I don't think they're here. But they do vote. So when something comes up in their backyard, we'll support them. I really don't want this large apartment complex, not because it's in my neighborhood, but because I don't think it's a good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. Debbie Hurst.
Thank you. So I was looking for a pen to say, thank you so much. I'm on the opposite side and it affects me as a citizen of Helotes. I live at 13220 Red Tail. And I notice people are zoning and I'm an educator for 30 years. So let's do a little bit of stretch so we can listen to what I have to say, because I notice some people are wanting to do other things, but I have important stuff to say. I want to share my concern with the mixed development proposal. I do not see its value to Helotes. We need meaningful businesses here. Helotes is not zoned for apartments. Helotes needs quality and not quantity. I have lived in Helotes since 1977. After graduating from college, I returned to raise my family here. I feel Helotes is losing its charm and uniqueness. Helotes seems to be acquiring fried chicken places, gas stations, auto parts, service establishments. We need quality and not quantity. Again, that's why I put signs in my yard and my sister's yard and my family's yard for you guys to be elected, because we wanted to change from what we had before. We were getting a bunch of businesses that were the same. Hello, McFly. We now have a Helotes tea place. It's hopefully going to open up soon, but that was a chicken place to add to everything else that is closing down around us. I do not want change. I do not want to change the zoning of Helotes to accommodate this massive apartment complex. Why would you want a 3-story apartment complex? We have the Tower of Americas. So is that going to be Helotes Tower of Americas? Hello, we reached Helotes. Look at the three buildings. I mean, the 3 stories. It's ridiculous. This would strip away from our uniqueness. We need meaningful developments with businesses and services that would complement Helotes. We need hallmark institutions, restaurants that, hello, I'm 53. So when I want to go to my 54th anniversary or a party or something, I want to go to a really great restaurant. I don't want to go to a food truck. I don't want to go to a splash pad. I don't want to do any of that. How is that going to help the city of Helotes? It's not. The apartment complex will offer the community pickleball, splash pad, food trucks. That is not, I'm not going to go to that. It's not going to help me. How would this, again, how is this going to help us? It's going to increase our traffic flow. And right now it sucks. Okay, it's hard to get out of Helotes. Really 20 minutes when it used to be like, and you're out. It's going to, that and crime. Apartment complexes, they decrease in value. They do not increase in value. So what are we going to have after that? Basically, we hired you to keep Helotes unique. Please keep that.
Thank you for your comments. Julie Salinas. Oh, there you go. Hi, Julie.
Hello, my name is Julie Salinas and I live at 11002 Bar X Trail in Helotes Park Estates. Today I stand before you as a concerned citizen opposed to the development of the proposed apartment complex on Bandera Road across from Old Town Helotes. My family moved to Helotes in 1982 and I live in that same house today. Over the past 4 decades, I have seen the city change and grow, and throughout its development, I've always remained proud to say that I grew up in Helotes and I still live here today. I live on the hill across from Old Town Helotes. Looking out my window to see a monstrous multifamily apartment complex would be hideous and without a doubt ruin the view of the rolling Helotes Hills. But I am not only speaking on behalf of the others with a similar view, but of everyone living in Helotes, because the city will permanently and negatively be affected by this addition. Apartment complexes are generally not designed for long-term living, but the rest of Helotes is. The amenities proposed in and throughout the complex are primarily designed to gather the multifamily residents together who live inside the complex. But this is not what Helotes needs or wants. Most of the apartments proposed in the complex are one-bedroom sizes. Helotes will quickly become a revolving door. The city of Helotes will thrive when this land becomes a place for Helotes residents to gather, citizens who are rooted in the homes of Helotes and not in temporary apartments. We can all agree Helotes is a charming city. Whether someone has lived here for only a few years or a few decades, this city is without a doubt unmatched. Adding a multifamily apartment complex will not add to the attraction of what Helotes is or who Helotes citizens are. It will attempt to make us no more special than every other city. The fact that we do not have an apartment complex in the middle of our city is one of the ways Helotes is unique and unlike any other. We would like to keep this cherished city the special gem that it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that Sean Missions? Shauna, excuse me. And the last letter is messed up, so I can't.
My handwriting.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shauna Michon. I live at 13907 Circle A Trail in Helotes Park Estates subdivision. I'm here to voice my opposition to the rezoning of the BP3 tracks on Bandera Road backing up to Bar X. And Minnow Partners is currently proposing to use multifamily development on that area and is requesting a PUD zoning. While this development may not affect the view of my property, it will affect my city, our community, and my neighborhood. While living in the surrounding area of Helotes for the last 20 years, we moved into our forever home 7 years ago. At that time, we were aware it was a business zoned land and that businesses would be developed. We accepted that. While I'm not against development or progress, I am against rezoning to allow high density multifamily living. There are currently 2 properties underway and minimal resources available for the residents we have now. Helotes deserves more for its residents and its community, may it be retail, shops, and restaurants. I do not see anything being proposed that enhances the community. We have a dog park, we have a disc golf park, we have playgrounds, and we have walking trails. I have worked alongside developers building multifamily complexes in and around San Antonio area for the last 17 years. It has been my personal observation that the properties are built, leased to 90%, and then listed for sale. With that sale, any promises made by the developer to the community go with wind. They're gone. The property then becomes a revenue generator for the investors, and third-party asset managers will be hired to run the property. I have recently witnessed properties be built, sold, and have had 3 asset managers turnarounds within 5 years. A multifamily complex will likely have a revolving door of 1-year tenants and short-term employees. A majority of those in and out are not fully invested into our city and community. While the property starts off high-end, time will take its toll. 10, 15, 20 years down the road, it will fade. That may seem far to think that far ahead, but at the moment. But it's not long for this resident whose long-term goal was to plant roots here for her growing family.
Thank you very much, Sean. And finally, we have Mike Michon. And yes, even though I messed up your last name, I do remember our conversations.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Michon, and I do live at 13907 Circle A Trail in Helotes Park Estates. I didn't really prepare anything other than I have spent the better part of 20 plus, almost 25 years working directly for multifamily developments, property manager myself. Now I'm not on site anymore, but I do still visit 15 to 20 communities daily, everywhere from Kerrville to Seguin to Floresville, wherever. My concern is, and I'm opposed to the idea. My concern is really just the long-term effects of a large multifamily community. The long-term effects meaning, sometimes managing a community is very stressful. Lots and lots of turnover. I see it all the time. I'll visit a community on Monday. I'll visit it 2 weeks later on a Tuesday, and we had a new manager, perhaps. I think a lot of that is really just due to unrealistic expectations set forth by the owners, or in some cases, the management companies. And it does lead to a lot, and I mean a lot, of turnover from on-site staff, maintenance included. So that's my primary concern, is just kind of the long-term effects of the staff leaving. Every 3 to 5 years, generally, not always, when the market's right. You'll see properties for sale, and then you'll have a new investment company that comes through and they buy it, and they'll hire a third-party management company to manage it. 9 times out of 10, they are absentee. They look at a balance sheet and they say, cool, we're making money. They don't see what's really going on the property. And I've been on calls with numerous managers, or asset managers, owners, that are asking, of course, about the performance of their community. And as a manager, we were told to kind of don't mention these things, don't mention certain things that are going on. And it's not fair to the owners to not be transparent, but it happens all the time. So again, that's my primary concern, is just really the long-term effects of that. And then there was one other thing that I had mentioned, or that somebody else had mentioned, lighting, I think, was one of the key points last meeting. Low lighting, for the community. Of course, the moment it changes hands, someone's going to put a ton of lights in, of course, because it's not safe at night for people to be walking around with very little to low lighting. So anyhow, that's just my concern, is the long-term effects of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. That's the last of our citizens to be heard. We have a relatively short agenda this evening. This item will be item number 7. I encourage everybody to hang around and listen to the conversation. It won't be that long before there. At this point, I'm looking for a motion, a second, to approve consent agenda item number 3 is written. Second. Make a motion. Motion by Cato, second by. I'll second. All right, with no discussion needed, all in favor of approving consent agenda item number 3 as written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have a mayor's report. Give you a couple of updates. We are in the process of putting out a bid for a public works storage building. For a long time, we've been having equipment stored in a very small and very old and in need of repair building. And we've been growing as a city, for sure, as we mentioned, and we've had additional equipment, and it's time that we add an asset to the city in a storage building. This will be a relatively low cost item as far as per square foot, but perhaps around 9,000-10,000 square foot facility that will be roofed, metal barn, prefab type is what we're putting out for bid. It's going out for bid right now, and the RFP is out there, so that will be coming. And then we'll look at doing something new. I think that was an item that was voted on and discussed a number of months ago about tearing down the old fire station that is definitively need repair. And perhaps we can do something much nicer with the entryway into the properties of the city and the fire department. But that is coming up. Other items is some police department news and some community safety information. So I'm glad everybody's out here and get a little bit of an update. We had the 0.25% sales tax. As you know, a number of us came around door to door. I probably personally talked with most everybody in the Circle A Bar X Trail neighborhoods for that 0.25%, so that we could hire some additional police officers. We had gone many years with much growth without any additional police officers, and that allowed us to be able to hire 6 additional police officers, which they are now all hired, and they are on the streets. And you are seeing them. I'm getting a lot of comments. Of course, some of the comments are like, I got a speeding ticket. Slow down. So did my son, and he had to pay it. So, but the point of it is that we are policing our neighborhoods to a much higher degree than what we have been done in the past. And the idea of that is not to give out tickets. Our goal is not revenue at all. It's really more to make sure that as San Antonio comes up and around us, and much more development, that we have an ever watchful eye in our communities for our safety while we're out away at work. Our police have thwarted a number of bad guys. And so we're putting more police officers in our communities for that reason. But be aware, they are out there. They are constantly out there, and I appreciate their efforts. At this point, I'll look for a motion and a second to discuss and take action on item number 5 as written.
Mr. Mayor, I move we discuss, take action on agenda item 5.
Motion by Sanders, second by
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Jones. Okay. Sir.
So there's not really a whole lot to say. This is kind of an annual thing that we pay this company to go out there and actually collect those monies that we're not able to collect through normal means. So, and I think we've been with this company for, Marion, how long? It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's at least about 15 years.
Yeah.
13.
Yeah. So
Thank you for coming.
Do you have a representative?
10
from
years, sorry, line bar.
No issues?
no issues.
Councilman, person?
Questions.
No questions.
I have no questions. I support this.
No, I just want to clarify something. The contract is basically the same as that we've had. They're going to get 30% of whatever they collect. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so nothing has really changed on this.
Nothing's changed at all. It's a 30% add-on fee under the under the criminal code statute. At any point, a person comes in, goes before the judge can waive that percent if he sees required.
Okay.
So this
And nothing
is,
comes out of the coffers. I'm sorry.
it's important to note, this is on working with property taxes and stuff in arrears that have been not paid, and collecting fees that have gone on our bad debt that we have little. That fee is added on, correct?
add-on
So it's
to
not a
the-
cost to us.
Correct.
It's a recovery fee. If they don't recover, they expend their monies. We have no cash upfront investment in their services.
We do
So,
all the legwork to bring him into the courthouse.
so every dollar they make, we hope they make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But to the credit of our good people here in Helotes, we have a quality group of people, our citizens that in general, by and large, to a much greater extent
These are
of
the
other
individuals
communities. We
riding
pay our
through Highway
taxes.
16 back and forth.
Correct.
Majority.
So we appreciate our people. Without any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, so no other discussion. All in favor of approving item number 5 is written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This
Thank you.
time.
I'd like to congratulate scouts coming, citizenship in community. I was here with my son. Requirement for Eagle Scouts, so son got it, so you guys do it too. Just wanted to say that.
Very good.
I
Appreciate
know
it.
why they're here.
We do have quite a few Boy Scouts that do come up in groups, and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts that come out, and we appreciate their activity, and we often have them lead the Pledge of Allegiance as well, trying to incorporate their efforts into our meetings. At this point, looking for a motion, a second to discuss, take action on item number 6 as written.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item 6 as written.
Motion by Massey, second by.
I'll second.
Second by Merchant.
Just pull right this way.
Sure.
So this is a yearly contract. And I've noticed again that it's gone up again, a little bit. I know everything has gone up. It's just, I just wanted to just bring that to everyone's attention. I guess, as we know, the economy is kind of in this flux state. So that's all I have to say. I don't like the fact that they've gone up, even though it's a little bit increments, but there you have it.
So just to interject here a little bit. I'm gonna have Dustin just speak, just to answer a quick question. We've been working with them. I would like you to just say if you've been pleased with the services. Of course, these fees are not fees the city pays. It's the fees and costing of boarding. When we catch a stray animal or wild animal, Dustin takes them out to the clinic and they take care of the animal from that point on. Has their quality service been acceptable or exceptional or?
The quality of service has been acceptable. Excuse me, acceptable. They at times go above and beyond. So no complaints as far as the service of the clinic. They're always top notch.
Excellent. And would pass that on, sir.
Sure, thank you. Dustin, do you know how long we've had this contract with them? This has been like,
I don't recall the first year. If I would have to take a guess at it, I would say probably maybe 8 years.
yeah, something like
Would be
that.
my guesstimation.
So the question I have is, we get good service there and they take care of us and it's pretty convenient for you to know the people there. But have we looked into anything else? Because every year we see these and every year the fees go up. And I mean, is there, not that you have time to do this, I'm sure, because you're a busy guy, but have we looked into anything different?
I'll
Go ahead.
interject. One of the reasons that we picked this one is because there are certain things that this clinic does that we need when it comes to the rabies that other clinics do not. And so this was when we did go out for an RFP. We've actually been in contract with them since 2013 for 10 years. And so we haven't done a new one, but, and you're right, there could be other now in that time period. But when we looked at it, probably when I got here 3 years ago, there was no other veterinarian that provided those services that we need. So
Okay.
we haven't looked at it in about 3 years.
All right, well, that's all I have. Thanks. Did you want to say something?
Well, I may add to that.
Please.
It has to fit a certain criteria. The clinic has to provide certain services that the city requires. In addition to that, of course, the clinic has to be willing. Not every clinic that we contacted when we looked was willing, even if they provided those services. That being said, I still feel that this clinic is the best option that we have. In regards to fees and services, it seems like as I went through it, I believe it's about a 5% increase roughly on most of those items. That's something that we're going to run across pretty much across the board. I'm fairly certain that they're competitive in the pricing, and any clinic that we were to go to is going to have to increase their prices from what they were the previous year. So I don't know how much of an impact that would necessarily play in it.
Okay, thank you.
I do think this is a much needed service and I do support this.
Good.
All right. With no further discussion, all in favor of approving item number 6 as written, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. And thank you for your work, Dustin.
Thank you, Dustin.
At this point, we're going to go into the presentation of item number 7. I'm going to preface this and then turn it over to M&O. Starting with just a little bit of background and a little bit of perspective. A lot of people confuse what my role is. I don't vote for or against, though I do receive a lot of emails on both sides. My job as mayor is to protect the process that anybody who wants to do anything has their day in court, as it were. And this is a presentation, and this is not where we'll be voting. There'll be no vote taken today for or against. This is an opportunity for a company to come in and present, hear comments from the public, hear comments from council, and then go back to formulate and determine what they are going to submit. We can't dictate what they submit. They can submit whatever they want. At that point, then we vote. So just to really affirm what the process is. I would like to speak to a couple of items of concern and then turn it over to the presenters, and then we will follow up the presentation with questions. But I wanted to address a couple of things and to identify what I'm looking for to hear in the presentation. Development in general, it's important to know that when properties are zoned and put up for sale, that's the individual right to sell the property. And of course, people have the right to buy it and do what is zoned in that property. That's what happened with the QT, for example. But oftentimes people want to do things that are not zoned. And then we take a look at what the needs of the community are, and we have to determine as a council, does what that product provide justify giving an overall variance to the project? We do have an interesting need here. For example, a lot of us have children, and when they come back from college or get out of high school, there's no way they can afford it's really about like $5,000 a month. Somebody mentioned $2,000 a month for mortgage. It's like $5,000 a month for mortgage. And so there is a need for semi-affordable housing. And that's what the previous PUD package that was approved, which was about 220 homes on 30 acres of single family homes. We do give everybody an opportunity to come for a pre-development meeting. That was not officially taken and done in this particular case. This is a significantly more dense project. Opposition to previous project that was approved was on the density, and that came out to about 0.13 acres per unit, and this is 0.06 acres per unit, so more than double the density. And so I'm looking for some sort of answer to that, as well as, of course, this being 3-story where all our other projects are 2-story. And of course, the number of square footage of commercial and amenities, which is satisfied in previous ones and an issue in this one. So I'm looking for some specific issues on that. I do want to speak generically, because there's so many people here, to a couple issues on fire and police and EMS. Currently, part of our EMS, we are required to have bare minimum staffing, if you will. We can't operate with less staffing, even though the need isn't there. So part of affording our fire department is to be able to have enough base to be able to properly. We don't have many runs, let's put it that way. They're not overtaxed. Police department is a different issue, and we've added police officers. So that is something that we do have to take into consideration and do. But at this time, that's just some general comments to set up for a presentation. I'd like to make your presentation. We'll reserve all comments until the end, and then we'll introduce our questions and hopefully give you feedback to go back to make your final submittal.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, citizens and residents, citizens of Helotes and residents that are in the area. My name is David Moore, and I'm with M&O Partners. We're here to present the Trailhead at Helotes. And the Trailhead at the Helotes is a really exciting mixed-use development. I think in particular, our really interesting retail concepts will be a really big asset for the community. And what I'm trying to convince you all tonight is that, the existing B3 zoning has allowed some uses that I think has made many folks upset. Not necessarily all bad uses, but not very inspirational, not necessarily a huge asset. Doesn't really say Helotes like we think our development will. And you can keep going. You can keep going. Yeah. So we're applying for a PUD. This is for a mixed use development. And like you said, it's not within the existing zoning. This is a thing we're requesting. It's a special kind of mixed use that we're requesting. And we think it's going to be far better than what the existing B3 zoning allows. It's also a really good time for us to gather feedback from council, gather feedback from the community. We're really trying our best to listen. We're taking all comments into consideration. And this is really just a conceptual hearing to gather feedback, to collect information, to help us come with something that, might be better for the community or, to adjust our plans if needed. The B3 zoning has allowed some uses that really are, I would say, probably less than desirable in some cases. Fast food restaurants, strip centers, auto places, auto repair. And, as much as some of those services are necessary, it just doesn't say Helotes. I mean, we can put limestone on it. You can, dress it up as well as you can, but ultimately it feels more like Leon Valley than what you really have here in Helotes, which is the unique Old Town district. And so we really tried our best to take elements of the Old Town master plan and incorporate those into our development concept. Just some examples of the B3 zone properties that have been allowed in Helotes and exist currently. There's a map. So I'm here to present the trailhead. And I think one of the really cool things about the trailhead is our retail concepts. These are concepts that we're really trying to make fit in with the character of Old Town Helotes. Right now, we have 34,000 square feet of retail proposed on 5 acres of frontage along Bandera Road. This retail is indoor-outdoor retail. It's designed to create a community feel and complement Old Town. Something that's interesting, if you look at the retail that exists in Old Town, and I'm talking the shops at Old Town Helotes, I'm talking B Daddy's Barbecue, Chaparral, Floor's Country Store. I forget what the other one is. It's kind of south of B Daddy's, but it's where y'all have Marketplace. The total square footage of that retail is 43,000 square feet. But the distance between El Chaparral and B Daddy's Barbecue is 4,000 linear feet. What we're proposing is 34,000 square feet of retail, but it keeps that indoor-outdoor feel that makes Old Town special. And I'm including Old Town Country Club in that as well. So that's almost all of the really, really noteworthy retail that you see in Old Town. And we're trying to keep it that way because we want that park-like feel. We want that green space. We want that family and community gathering spot. Has anyone been to the Pearl Brewery?
Okay.
Nothing like.
Okay, let's please just stick to the presentation, sir. Thank you.
Because what I want to point out about the Pearl Brewery is there's a food hall and a very small patch of green space with a splash pad. The food hall brings in 5 or 6 really unique restaurant concepts. You can order up there, you can grab great food. The splash pad attracts hundreds of kids, families. It's a place to gather. It's a place to see each other. It's a place to get to know your neighbors. That's a tiny patch of grass, but it's indoor, outdoor. It's a community place. It's what people want. Now, Helotes doesn't want as much density as what you see at the Pearl Brewery. In a 20-acre space, which encapsulates the entire Pearl Brewery development, there are about 900 apartments. And that's not including the hotel. That's not including the massive office space that's there. That's just the apartments. So the Pearl is a place, the density contributed to it, and it's become a focal point. It's become something that has been celebrated in magazines. It's something that we all love in this region, and we all go there. I live there myself. I think that the retail concept and the mixed use development at the trailhead at Helotes can become something that is celebrated in its own unique way. It's not going to be nearly as dense as the Pearl. It won't have nearly the amount of apartments, but it's going to have those community gathering aspects. Oh, if you could please go back, I just want to highlight some of the concepts that we are discussing. So if you take a look at the site plan, first I want to show you how much we're going to preserve trees. Right now, we're proposing a 40-foot tree buffer, not just along Bandera Road, along the entire perimeter of the property. You can see a diagram of what that looks like. You've got a 10-foot crushed granite walking trail that'll go around the entire property and a 15-foot green belt on each side. You're going to have a nice little hike. This is going to be a great place to grab a cup of coffee in the morning, take a jog, take your dog, and really get to meet and know your neighbors, similar to what you experience in Old Town. Next slide, please. Below is a dog park, bar, and playground. We took images from the retailer that we're actually in conversations with right now. He sent in a letter of support. I included it in the package. His name's Gray Hardaway. He went to Marshall High School. He really is excited to do something here in Helotes. And he has a concept over on Jones Maltzberger called Hops and Hounds. When I was talking to him, he wanted to do a concept called Hops, Hounds, and Playgrounds. He was looking in that little corner near 1604 near Chicken and Pickle. He ultimately didn't go with that location, but he wants to do something like that here. And that's what the splash pad and that's what the dog park bar is here for. He's going to be serving drinks. He's going to be serving coffee. He's going to be serving food. But the idea is to create an indoor-outdoor place that's in line with Old Town. Next slide, please. We're also really excited about pickleball. I play pickleball. It's one of the most fascinating sports right now. You go out to a pickleball court and they have this thing called open play. This is 30, 40 people, depending on the number of courts. They get together, they put their pickleball paddles up, they're playing pickup games, they're getting to know each other. One thing I think we really need today is places for people to get to know each other. I really do. I think that I'm passionate about it, and this is what we're trying to do with our retail. I've been in contact. Originally, we were just going to provide the pickleball courts as sort of an extra for the Hops and Hounds concept. This would be, but recently we've been in contact with an indoor pickleball court company. They have projects all across the country, and they're interested in doing a concept where you can reserve on demand the pickleball courts. We'll have a couple outside. We'll have about 4 inside. And, you can still get your drinks. You can still get your food from the numerous retailers that are going to be around the area. Next slide, please. Oh, actually, if you go to the previous slide, I just want to emphasize one more piece of the retail. The pink building up there, that's going to be a place. It's right above the pickleball courts. That's a place where we want to do a fitness concept. I've heard from the community that a juice bar or a salad place would be a kind of nice sandwich shop, kind of healthy eating would be a great concept over there. We don't have any tenants lined up for that just yet, but that's an interesting idea. And then finally, we'll be having some food trucks that come out to the property, and that little pink building right above the pickleball courts will be a space similar to the Pearl Food Hall, where you have a small business. Maybe they started out as a food truck, but now they want to start a brick and mortar, but they don't have necessarily the capital to really invest in a big space. Well, they can start out there and get their start as an entrepreneur. Finally, up there in the corner, we really want to do a really nice sit-down restaurant. We don't want it to be a chicken place. That's one thing we've heard is just, that's, off limits. We want this to be a really nice sit-down restaurant, something like steak and seafood. We've been talking with B.R. Anderson over at B Daddy's Barbecue. He's interested in doing a concept over there. And ideally, this is a 10,000 square foot space, about the size of Chaparral, except it won't be Mexican food. It'll be a unique, different concept so people can have a great place to eat in our development in Helotes. The residential use, which for us really kind of makes this project work, we have to have it. We're really trying to be sensitive to the surrounding area. So we know there's owners that sit up on the cliff on Bar X Trail. We know that existing right now. There's a lot of tree coverage in the frontage of the property. And that's why we've proposed our very generous tree buffers and our walking trail. All of our 2-story units are in the back of the property, closer to the residential. And again, the residential is sitting about 100 feet up. Our 3-story is more towards the retail use. Next slide, please. Again, from our calculations, based on plus or minus the average resident on Bar X Trail, they'll still have 40 feet unencumbered of views, and that's with the 3-story. And I'll tell you this, we're looking at the 3-story. We're looking at that. We're thinking about it. We're seeing if we can do something, somehow make this work in a different way. I'm not sure if we can, but it's something we heard at P&Z. It's something we're hearing from the residents, and it's something we can explore. I can't guarantee it's something that'll work, but it's something we can explore.
Just to clarify, you mean look at going to 2-story instead of 3-story?
Yes, yeah. For our residential buildings, you can see the 3-story proposal is on the left. This is a 45 max building height. And we have 2-story buildings on the right. This is a 35-foot max building height. We're trying to keep a hill country design aesthetic because we know that Helotes is the gateway to the hill country. Our materials palette that we're proposing is high quality limestone, corrugated metal, Corten steel, board and batten, and a wood look hardy plank with really nice high quality bronze windows. I'm going to let our land use consultant speak on the different ways that we are trying to complement the Old Town Historic District. She was a real help for us in studying that plan and going through it and trying to come up with a way to really complement it. So I'm going to introduce Ashley Fairmont.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council, Ashley Fairman. Nice to see you all. Yeah, thank you, David. So I think we can go on to the next slide. And I think David hit on a lot of these things in his presentation, but in putting together the plan, the idea was to look at Old Town, to look at the surrounding uses and how could we complement the goals of that plan. And so, some of the things that we want to highlight, it does include a mixture of uses and diversity of uses. And so that's something we're trying to do here. Walkways and streetscapes. So as you saw in the presentation and the site plan that David showed, the idea of, how do we treat Bandera? How do we set taller buildings back from Bandera? How do we include a buffer? Parking is not up front on the street. The idea is to move the buildings closer. So it's not like everything else you see if you're driving up Bandera Road with the parking in the front and the building in the back. So that's something, the pathways, the idea of having a walking path around the entire property to get people outside and moving, park space and open space, that's a big deal in this plan. Tree preservation, those types of things, and how do they keep the feel of the land, but also allow for the development. So I think, as you all know and you all have seen, property is sold. It's currently zone B3. And so they're looking at a way to maybe do better than that in terms of city code with tree preservation, buffers and those sorts of things. Jumping ahead, so we can talk about the public amenities. I think David did a good job of describing the public spaces that they want, and the community idea, a place to bring your family, a place to have dinner that's maybe a little different than what's offered now. And then go to the next slide. Yeah, so again, I already hit on parks and trails and parking, but those are things that were pretty important. I do want to point out just in regards to the B3 and the PUD. So I know there's been a lot of discussion about asking for variances with the PUD. So the PUD does allow for the mixture of uses, which is different from the code, but it also allows for a heightened standard of development. So with a normal B3 zoning, someone could buy the property tomorrow and come in and come in for a design review and do whatever use is allowed in B3, an auto use or whatever it could be. What we're proposing is a plan that what's presented to you all, what may be approved when we ask for approval is a plan that's locked in place. So it's a plan that guarantees the buffers, it guarantees tree preservation. We can guarantee where parking is located, things like that, building height and where that goes. And so that's just a different standard. So yes, there is maybe a variance associated with the PUD, but there's also a standard that goes above and beyond, we think. And then, I heard concerns about, maintenance and ongoing, how does this property stay, what's presented? So, questions about lighting. If David sold the property, how do they guarantee that the lighting will continue to be down lighting? So those are things that we can incorporate into that PUD that continues on no matter the ownership. So, a guarantee of downward lighting moving forward, those types of things that can go into that document. I know that's much more detailed than we're here today. We're here to present the concept and get you all's feedback on that. But I just wanted to point that out as well. Thank you.
I'll just go through a couple of influential developments that kind of highlight what we are proposing with the retail. The first one is this Whitty Road development in Houston. As you can see, there's some retail there. It's a great gathering spot. You've got sand volleyball courts, you've got green space. This is the kind of use that people want. People are really seeking community use like that. And I think this is the kind of use that people want. It's popular, and I think it'll be really great for Helotes. Here's another district. It's in Austin. It's a entertainment district where you have live music, you have indoor outdoor seating. It's a great place for families. They've got trivia nights, really respectful of the environment. They save a lot of trees, and they're saving a lot of trees because they have that outdoor green space where people can gather. They can take refuge under an oak tree. Really nice space. And we currently have a project over there. So it's we really like kind of creating this kind of community feel. This one's really interesting. This is in Abilene, Texas. It's called Allen Ridge. And you can see what they did here. They have I'm not sure exactly how much retail it is, but they've got retail with green space. They have a boardwalk. They actually could create this little I think they had to do it for stormwater drainage purposes, but they have a retention pond, and they kind of created a trail around the retention pond. And then this indoor outdoor retail that's just, everyone likes it. It's very cool. It's a lot of fun. You can see that to make it work, they had a apartment building that was built just north of it, very similar to this concept. And this is something that I see in Texas Monthly Magazine. I actually see the city economic development of Abilene, like promoting Abilene, Texas, and they have a cool downtown, a really historic, cool downtown, Main Street, but they're also promoting this Allen Ridge. They're showing this is what's cool about Abilene. I'll just let Ashley speak to just some of the specifics with the B3 versus Trailhead. And then we'll have one of my business partners, Ryan Othman, read some letters of support that we've received for the project. Some snippets, we won't, labor you with it.
Sure, and I won't talk for long. I think I already hit on this pretty much, but and I think you all have a good understanding of what's allowed. But again, things that we can improve on versus what could go there today, I think is part of the goal in working together on this project. So it's, as we talked about, the uses. We can look at building height still, noise concerns, all of those things that can be improved with the PUD, or we think are improved with the PUD versus what would be allowed if someone else came to develop it. And again, those are things that we can lock in with that document if we proceed. So thank you.
Again, thank you everybody for giving us the opportunity to speak and present and hear your feedback from the residents as well. So I've been handling the inbound letters of support on our website and next door. As you can see, we're getting a lot of them. I mean, here I recently read your next door post regarding Trailhead at Helotes. I live off San Antonio Drive and a stone throw away across Los Reyes. Creek to Los Reyes Creek, to Flores Country Store. I mean, I don't want to read, but these are multiple letters of support that we're getting inbound. Right here, I'm in with a plan, more, and these are all Helotes addresses. They're going to benefit from taking their kids to the splash pad. They're gonna go to the restaurant. Their kids or the grandkids are gonna play pickleball. They're gonna enjoy the trail. And I'm sure this is an ex-councilman. We had breakfast with him last week. This is please, I don't want to just read off the screen, but we just want to, and we understand here, people that live in Bar X Trail, that have homes that look over trees. I have empathy for that. I understand that you want to look over, into the horizon and just see trees, but that's probably not going to happen. If it's not our development, it's something else. And if it's B3, I would never want trucks backing up on B3 or a gas station, or these are the letters of support that hopefully council can see and as well, and balance out what the citizens are saying as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you for listening to our presentation, and we really appreciate it and appreciate your time, and definitely open to any questions and any feedback. And like we said, this is one of our iterations. We're actively seeking feedback and actively trying to make this a really great asset for Helotes.
All right. We're going to open up to questions from council, and for lack of better mechanism, I'll start with seniority.
Thank you, Rich.
Councilmember.
I don't have any questions. I saw your presentation at the P&Z meeting, and I have been, I've read all of the support letters and of course all of the against letters. I already have an opinion, and I'm going to go ahead and I too have something that I would like from a historical viewpoint. I know this presentation is not an action item for tonight, but I feel it's important for you to, and our residents, to understand why I cannot and will not support this so-called mixed-use development as a viable option for Helotes. When Helotes was incorporated as a city in 1981, it was so that the town, established as a stagecoach stop in 1873, would retain its identity. A frequent statement made during incorporation hearings was, "We do not want to be swallowed up by San Antonio or become a mini San Antonio." In light of this, I would like to pose a question for consideration to my city council colleagues. Is Helotes a bedroom community for the city of San Antonio? Or are we a city that can provide amenities for the residents we already have? After the city was first incorporated, zoning hearings were conducted. Properties abutting Bandera Road, a first-class road since the 1880s, were designated the town's business corridor. 42 years later, there are few optimal business properties left in Helotes. To allow this PUD, which though presented as a mixed-use development, is nothing more than a high-density 366-unit apartment complex on 21 acres with amenities for renters, would be a dereliction of our fiduciary duties to our residents. Just down the road, last year, the council approved Bandera Ranch, an actual mixed-use development at the corner of Bandera and Scenic Loop Roads. That 31-acre development has 220 high-end rental townhomes, several for families, none more than 2 stories. There are 12 acres of green space, 45% impervious cover, and a bona fide retail complex with 6 buildings for restaurants, perhaps a grocery store, and other retail. Just down the road from that development, between Bridgeport and Triana Parkway, the Ranch Creek Apartments, a 300-unit complex, is being constructed. Those apartments are in the county and not in our jurisdiction, but will affect our city tremendously. They were approved by the city of San Antonio in the fall of 2022. According to their spokesperson, the San Antonio City Council had no choice but to approve that complex because of lax county laws regarding development. We, the City Council of Helotes, have the legal right to deny this PUD, and we should. What we need on that property is a retail village, a development of small boutique stores, coffee shops, plazas, fountains, and green space, and perhaps an anchor store like Trader Joe's or Sprouts. Why can't we have something like that presented? Something that would actually benefit all of Helotes and not just the developer. I will not accept the scare tactic that if we don't approve this apartment complex, then what we can expect in B3 zoning are big box stores in a strip mall with miles of concrete parking. According to several business websites, big box retail stores are closing across the nation. More than 800 are set to close this year alone. Bed Bath & Beyond, Tuesday Morning, Gap, Walmart, Party City, to name just a few. The trend is for village retail and to give up this 21-acre business property for a massive apartment complex of 366 units that will bring in double that amount of people who will have tenuous ties to our city would be a travesty. I am a longtime resident of Helotes, having lived here for 29 years, and I have been on the city council for 15 of those years. I have seen the city change, in some ways for the better, in other ways not so much. It's sometimes not a good thing to be so desirable as Helotes has become. I attended a neighborhood meeting in Helotes Park Estates with several residents who will be most affected by the apartment buildings and who are adamantly against this development. I explained to them that that property is currently zone B3, and they needed to understand that that means retail buildings rather than apartments. They were all in agreement that retail is a better alternative than this high-density 3-story apartment complex that circumvents our height zoning requirements. To now change the B3 zoning for such a complex would be a grave mistake. So again, I pose this question for consideration to my city council colleagues. Is Helotes a bedroom community for the city of San Antonio? Or are we a city that can provide amenities for the residents we already have? That's it. Thank you.
Please remain decorum, but I appreciate your sentiments. Craig, you're next up on seniority.
That's hard to follow. And so thanks for your presentation. And thanks for everybody that came out and spoke tonight. I agree with 99.9% of everything that Councilmember Massey had to say. I definitely want to emphasize the business piece of it though. Even if this was something that was acceptable, what you're proposing, the biggest problem is the retail part for me, big time. So most people don't realize that the city of Helotes has finally reached a state where our finances are stable. So it's like 38% of our revenue that runs the city comes from property tax, and the other 36 comes from sales tax. So we need to keep that in mind as we seek out development on the last remaining pieces of property in Helotes. There's not that much more to develop, and I'm not advocating to develop it, but when we do, we have to do it smartly. And we have to think about, do we want a good combination of sales tax and property tax? We do a lot of what's called retail leakage, a term that I learned when I got on council, where a lot of our residents are going outside of Helotes in order to get certain services. I don't ever expect a Lowe's or Home Depot here, but there's a lot of other services and retail stores that we can have here that our people can actually leverage. And I think that's where Councilmember Massey was saying, service the people that are here. We're not looking for a second Old Town either. And I think that's the other, maybe a little bit of a misconception. I get it that you're trying to integrate with it. And I get that. But I don't know if Helotes is the right place for a second Pearl-like concept. And as far as rental communities go, and you probably already know this, so Helotes has never really had any rental property until the Hacienda del Rio, which finally opened up about 1.5 years ago. And it's a workspace below, there's retail below, and people live above it, which is a concept I'm surprised you guys didn't try to roll into this. That might have eliminated a lot of the living space and created more of the boutiques and some of the business space. Just a thought. And then the most recent development that we approved just up the road at Scenic Loop and Bandera Road. There's no demand signal, in my opinion, for any more rental. But I will say, I do appreciate some of those concepts that you have on the front end of your building. And I really love your attempt to integrate a lot of the greenery, right? That goes far here in Helotes if we can maintain the green space, the heritage oaks, things like that. So anyways, thanks for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you for your feedback.
Matt. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I have nothing to add or take away from what I've heard from the citizens and my colleagues here. So I'll just reserve until further notice.
Okay,
thank you.
Jen?
So I have a question for Marion first about the PUD ordinance. It lists 4 authorized uses, which are residential housing. It says consistent with area zoning, which is B3. Then commercial development, recreation, open space, and a combination of any of the types of developments listed above. So that's what percentage or whatever they have of that combination. There's nothing written out in the ordinance that it has to be this much percent this. It's very open-ended.
It is very open-ended. This PUD, when it was written that way. Not every city has, some of them have it written this way. Some of them have it where it tells you 20%, 30%, and so forth. Ours does not.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So knowing that, area zoning doesn't allow for 3-story apartments, and this is something one of our P&Z commissioners, Alex Blue, brought up. So what you just said to the mayor, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding you would consider dropping the 3-story.
Yeah, it's something that we're going to explore because we've heard that from so many residents. We've heard that from planning and zoning. Yeah, the 3-story doesn't seem very palatable to folks. And so we are exploring if we can make it work. I mean, the thing with these projects is it has to be financially feasible. I mean, that's just how the world goes round. And, you know, the density at the Pearl kind of makes the Pearl work, right? Like they've got 4 stories. I think they have an 11-story building there. I can explore it. I can't guarantee it'll work.
Okay, because how I read this ordinance as a council, we're required to approve a PUD that's consistent with area zoning. So that is a concern, is how I'm reading the ordinance. Commercial space, just a little bit about Hops and Hounds. I have never been there. So you have an agreement that if this moves forward, that this business owner is going to come in? Is that what I understand, or?
Yeah, so right now everything's conceptual, but I talk to the business owner about once a week. We've had coffee. For the residential portion, we want to get really high end. We want to make it very high end, and we want to get good rents, and we want to attract good tenants, right? And things like Hops and Hounds, things like pickleball, things like a nice sit down restaurant, a great place for fitness and a walking trail, all of those kind of give you that premium that you can expect when you're trying to attract those residents. So with Hops and Hounds, we don't have anything, we don't have like a lease agreement yet, but I don't even have, approval yet to do the project, right? So, but he's written in a letter of support, work in constant communication. These are the kind of tenants that we want to attract. And I understand that, there's concern about Helotes becoming a bedroom community. I understand that. Leon Valley tried to pretend like it wasn't going to grow, and it got strip centers. What happened is everyone started to move out. They started to move north. They started to get out of Leon Valley. Well, that retail left, and then they went north. They leapfrogged. They followed them. And this is just a pattern of development that if you're really open-minded about it, you'll find this everywhere in San Antonio and everywhere in these suburban areas. It's just what happens. A retailer is not invested at all in the community, especially if it's a big box or it's an out-of-town shop. Not necessarily going to be big box here, but they're not necessarily invested. Residents are. And so that's why we're trying to have a nice mix. The retail, we're trying to keep it local. We're trying to have great businesses that are family friendly. I talked to BR over at B Daddy's Barbecue. I mean, he's really interested and supportive of the concept. I'd love to get Floors to do something out there if they want to do something, but these are the kind of retailers we're talking to. Indoor pickleball court facility. That's kind of the goal of this, but so I understand that concern. But if you really look at the zoning and if you really think about history, really, and I'm saying this, just please be open-minded to it. Was there zoning when Old Town Helotes was created? Was there zoning when the most unique places that we enjoy and love were created? We wanted to take control and have our have our hands on things, and it's respectable. It's understandable, but we did it all over the place, and the zoning never got updated. It's very rigid. You have these micromanaging setback requirements, different kinds of things like that. And it stifled creativity, and it led to an environment that is just ripe for out of town, big box or retail uses that have the corporate ability to navigate all of those regulations and deal with it. So this PUD, we're trying to work heavily with that Old Town master plan that really was put in place kind of as a de facto way to keep Old Town, keep its character and keep its integrity. We're trying to use that in our development, given these parameters. So hope that's helpful.
So another thing that came up at PNC is that you had a 2-year proposal in San Antonio that ultimately didn't succeed. Can you briefly explain what happened, what lessons you learned, why that didn't, maybe not, we don't need to go into all the ins and outs of that, but just elaborate on that.
Sure. Yeah. So that was a situation where we needed more density and we couldn't get it. And so we just pulled the plug on it. We found out it wasn't going to work, and we thought we just, put our energies elsewhere. But it's something we really tried to work with the community on. It just didn't pencil. So.
And you have a project in New Braunfels. One of our residents who did Citizens to be Heard tonight went up and looked at it. I have not looked at it. I understand that you have a project in Austin. If I could get the name of that project, because if this does move forward, I plan on going up and checking that out.
Yeah.
Can you give us on record the name of that project?
So the name of the project in Austin is called The Local. It's a parcel that's just right north of Luster Pearl South, which is a really cool indoor-outdoor bar concept. They're exactly like what we're talking about. We even used some imagery from that restaurant and retail space. The project's in development. We expect to break ground in November or December, just depending on if we can get the permits on
So
time.
I'm not going to see anything. I'm just going to see a lot then. Okay.
But you'll kind of see the area and the idea of it. The Luster Pearl people are actually a partner for the retail portion for us, if that helps. For the New Braunfels project, that one is currently under construction. That one's not a mixed use development, but there wasn't a mixed use opportunity or zoning in the city. But that one's adjacent to, I think it's about 20 single family homeowners. And we really, that's one of the reasons I try to reach out on Nextdoor. That's why I try to reach out to, members on council. That's why I try to reach out to everyone in the community, is that we want to work with the community. We found with those neighbors, they were also sensitive about the apartment use, and we worked with them. We built them a privacy wall. We ensured that road access was would block through traffic. And so they were worried that, okay, there's going to be a lot of people coming in and out of Green, and they're going to be exiting through their neighborhood now because the road was going to be extended. We said, no, this is only for pedestrian access. But that location, very simply put, we get a premium for walkable locations, and it's in demand, it's healthy, it's desirable. If you look at all the walkable locations in San Antonio, you're going to see the highest rents, and you're going to see the places that people drive out of their way to go to. So that's our New Braunfels project. We managed to win support of, I'd say probably 75% of those adjacent homeowners. And we got the 2 neighborhood associations to support the project.
And then just to clarify, these examples of other developments in Houston and Abilene, and I think Austin, are not your projects. They're just examples of other projects.
Yeah, so those are inspirational examples that we've kind of worked our concept off of. And I wanted to just present that because you don't see a lot of this kind of development in San Antonio or in Helotes. It's usually these kind of generic strip centers, get Dollar General, Subway, whatever. We want this to be unique, and we're seeing this pop up in other places, and people are really celebrating it and they're really thinking it's cool. So that's why we're trying to do it.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Certainly, certainly. Helotes will change whether we like it or not. It certainly has changed a lot in the last 20 years since my wife, 2 young boys, and I moved to Helotes. Hopefully for the better. I say that because it was not pleasant during our first few years in the Helotes, especially for our children at Helotes Elementary. My wife and children were basically treated like the plague by the old guard simply because we moved into Ironhorse Canyon. I get it, some residents have and always will absolutely fear change, but done right, change can be good for all. We must keep Helotes Old Town charm while embracing change. Does this development reflect what is Helotes? Perhaps not now, but there is a high probability it will sometime in the future. Affordable housing for all is in the best interest for all Helotes, all of Helotesians. However, I am not convinced high-density housing as presented today is right for Helotes right now.
Thank you.
I guess I'll close up with this. And really just I wanted to embrace some of the multitude of emails I've gotten. And parenthetically, I'd like to say, I can't tell you who you can and cannot email, but if you happen to decide to email council and you include everybody, we cannot respond because we end up in a legal issue of creating quorum. So please don't be offended if we don't respond. It's much better if you send a comment singularly to the city secretary, city administrator, and then they can distribute just as a point of issue, or so that you don't get offended if we don't respond. If you include everybody, we just can't. But I wanted to address a couple of issues that came up in letters both for and against this project. Even going back to the point when I was elected first term, one of my platforms was to work with the EDC and focus on what kind of establishments we go after. The EDC's purpose is to go out and attract business and to develop us economically. But also, I don't necessarily feel we needed to expand all the way up to Pipe Creek, if you will. And we worked successfully with EDC and have kind of reshaped the focus of EDC to look and develop what we have, which would include this parcel of property. Development does need to happen. I respect everything that everybody has said here. My question, when you go back, is to think, knowing that development will happen, if not this, what? Okay, and I'm not saying that because I want this. I'm very neutral on this point. My job is simply to ensure due process, if you will, but to bring all the facts that some development will eventually go there. If it is a B3, it could be more chicken places and there'd be nothing we could do to stop it. So that is one thing that you have to understand, that council, when they take a look at, for example, there were some people against the PUD that we did approve, but the overall look of that single family homes, the extra commercial that it brought with the hope of a date night restaurant, which was one of the goals I had specifically named I wanted to bring, and Glenn can attest to my pushing for that, and we will continue to do that. Projects like this, I think there are a lot of positive attributes about this in general. I like the walking trail. I do like the concept. He is correct. I do a lot of investments. I do a lot of consulting. Of course, my work as a San Antonio firefighter, I visit and see areas that used to be hot and happening, and now they're vacant and destitute, if you will. And he is correct. It does follow that pattern of building, becoming filled out, move out, destitution, and it just almost like a bomb. And we don't want to be caught in that ripple. And so part of what we have to take a look at is when we look at these developments that do require council approval, we need to realize that if we don't be proactive in the development of a unique feature, and this development is very unique, and I think it does provide a lot of aspects of what we do want to have in Helotes. However, there are a number of components that are very difficult to swallow. The 3-story is incredibly difficult for me to swallow, whether I have a vote or not. It's not something you're bringing to the table about offering to lock it in. When we approve a PUD, we write it. It's basically an ordinance unto itself, and it specifically lists, and it has to be built exactly that way, and no ifs, ands, or buts. So it's not an offering, it's a requirement upon you. I didn't appreciate a little bit of the fear tactic. If we don't do this, a big box will come here. Some of that was brought in the previous PUD. In the previous PUD application, they actually had a big box, and that was their plan. But they felt something could be better fit for Helotes. But that was their go-to. A big box would not go on a single side, one-way accessible. It just doesn't happen. But strip centers do. So that's something to keep in mind. When you look over Bar X Trail, eventually a year, 10 years, 20 years from now, you're going to look down on something. And you're going to need to take a good hard look at what it is that you want to look down on and help be a part of shaping that, because we want to get feedback to the EDC, because their job is to go out and seek and make that happen. But before somebody comes in and builds something that doesn't require a variance. So that's part of this process. To close up briefly, I do want to say that I really want to shy away from casting any dispersions against the quality of rental people. My family lived in apartments, a number of apartments growing up. Just because we're an apartment does not mean we're low quality people. I understand the tendency. I have 275 apartment complexes in my Still district in San Antonio, it's District 37. And I see what a lot of people fear. But a lot of that has to do with the way it's managed and what's around it, and the standard that we set as a people in Helotes, which we've done a great job so far with our community, and I commend our citizens in that. So with that, I hope that you hear loud and clear the concerns of our citizens, the concerns of council, and what we're looking at designing here, and take the positive aspects of what you have in your, and pray maybe expand on the positive to be able to reduce the negative. And of course, your stage at this point is to go back to the drawing board and see what you submit. I do want to encourage everybody that the fact that we allow somebody to come up, we must allow somebody to come up. So don't take the fact that somebody applies means it's automatic approval. It's a matter of due process, and that's what we pride ourselves on, is making sure that we uphold the law and give everybody their day in court, as it were. So I hope this has been an educational process, and I look forward to hearing back from you all. We do offer a pre-development meeting, which I would encourage you all to take us up on, so we can pre-review, as you said, and see how, or if you want to continue.
Great. Well, Mayor, members of council, thank you so much. We appreciate your feedback, and we'll do what we can. Thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah, just 1 second. And we're, again, we're taking your feedback, and Marianne could attest that we're reaching out to whoever could meet with us, whether neighbors or city staff, development services. We even talked to TxDOT. They want to meet as well. So, with the city. So we're at your disposal. Whoever wants to meet with us, we're ready to hear feedback. And like you said, go back to the drawing board and give you something you want.
Appreciate that.
Thanks.
With that, we will adjourn. Time is 8:43 p.m. Thank you.